SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure Monosity.
What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sort of lathe.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining
Don't
us.
assault the public.
Got audio assault. People listening don't even know what's happening right now.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of I was vamping. I see now how you guys feel. That's an interesting. I totally lost my train of thought. Maybe this is why I do it. Wherever, however you are joining us, this is the I Speak Jeep podcast. That's right, the original, the OG Jeep family
Are you sure?
producing the podcast. This is I Speak Jeep, and we're doing some big things here, folks. And Scott,
The size of Texas.
the size of Texas, and Scott was referring to if you're listening and you can't see us, and you are always welcome to join us on the Book of Faces at 10:19 a.m. live on Mondays.
Neil's literally trying to make a cowboy Cadillac.
I am the YouTube viewers requested a cowboy Cadillac, so I am pointing my longhorn, my steer horns at the camera.
We should have had Davey make those a hat for you.
Probably could still get a hat out there. These are going to go on the hood of the Cadillac.
I'm gonna just
So-
drill 2 holes in the hood and get it over with.
So I'm just going to jump right to the comments. Chip Fury
I
says,
refuse
"Good
to
morning,
drill. Good morning.
SFJ."
Good morning, Chip.
Joe says, "Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime."
Showtime.
Roy saying, "Good morning, fellows."
Morning, Roy.
And Brad saying, "Happy Monday, fellows."
Happy
Happy
Monday.
Monday.
What a great crowd. And I'm always amazed how many people watch and don't comment and watch live. And so if you are watching or you join in with us today, jump in and leave a comment. Say good morning at least. A lot of people, feedback is they enjoy just being able to jump around in the comments and read through. So
Let's do quick introductions here.
yep, my name is Neil with SFJ4x4.com, and I am joined with the decorated individuals here in studio.
Are you sure?
You don't know what you don't know
You know
until
it.
you know it.
Yeah.
So who are you? So we know it.
I am a Fender installation guy. Hashtag mad scientist Scott Brown.
Keeps laughing at his own joke. I
Yeah.
think is what was just
That's what
happening.
you should do.
He laughed at his own joke, I think, He's like, I'm a Fender installation guy.
Yeah. And
You're a full M38 builder over there.
Yeah.
I don't understand. You're
coaxing metal back together.
and it is coming back together. And folks, if you haven't watched the Tuesday live updates that Jeffrey puts out, or we'll try and put it into our lifestyle vlog, Life in Low Range, the M38 is starting to for a brief moment starting to look like a Jeep again.
Yes.
So looking
Yep.
forward to that taking shape better and better. And you are,
I'm
sir?
the producer, Jeff Shermani.
Are you sure?
The Italian stallion. You know what? If this is first time joining us, or maybe even just a couple times in, you're gonna want to go back, finding on social media or wherever the most
You don't need to
fantastic,
go back for that.
fantastic picture
Yes.
of the Italian stallion grooving out, doing some
That doesn't exist. I
on
don't
a
know what you're
unicorn.
talking about.
sweet 90s dance moves on a unicorn or something.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
stuff.
They do exist.
So, Daddy Jeep said, "Morning, guys."
Good morning.
And Chuck is saying, "Morning, gentlemen. Wheeling weekend coming up."
Outstanding.
And real quick, we talk about the comments. We have, we're still looking for people to help with the relay race on the TV trays.
the great race.
I keep telling my wife. She keeps sending me pictures of cheap TV trays. And I keep saying, I will not forward them. I will not show you guys because we must.
We have
We
to
have-
complete
we
this
have
relay.
TV trays at this point in time.
Yes.
We have
We own them.
Uno
They're
to
just,
trace.
They're just
And
not in our possession.
They're just not in our possession.
At,
And
the, at the request of that individual, we have to correctly say his name now, but Neil has to do
not.
it with his Canadian accent.
Oh, God.
which
We don't have enough time.
which I love his response. He was great humor and obviously a terrific fit in with our Jeep family to reach out and share these TV trays, which again, for all of our viewers and listeners, will match perfectly Grandma's couch. So as far as reaching out, he has these TV trays. He's in New Hampshire, folks. So we need to move these TV trays from New Hampshire to SFJ headquarters in Conneaut, Ohio, on the beautiful shores of Lake Erie.
Not that far.
And we need your help to do it. Yeah, I bet it's like a 10-hour drive. It's
Yeah.
8 to 10-hour drive tops. But we need to relay race them because, I mean, that makes for a great story.
Yes.
Hey,
And his name is actually spelled. I think we tried to spell it the other day.
It's spelled like Philip or Philippe.
Oh,
Philippe?
you're going to do it already. See, you let the
spelled-
cat out of the bag.
it's spelled-
like Felipe,
Yeah.
or Philippe, depending on if you're whomever.
Whether you're French,
And-
French Canadian, whatever, it's spelled like Philippe or Philippe.
Yes, but he goes on to tell us that his pronunciation is actually Philip, and he spells it out phonetically for us, and FILL up UP Philip.
They're just words that are supposed to screw with people
But
like me.
his grandfather was Canadian.
Yep.
And so he makes a great offhand comment about all things Canadian being having a certain pizzazz. So while it looks like Felipe, he's actually Philip. And I don't even know how I would possibly
I feel bad for him
Canadianize.
as
You
a
just have
small
to say
child.
a sentence with your Canadian accent.
No.
That's all we need.
No, nobody actually needs that. And
We
the
don't need
fact
to
that
offend our friends
I
enough.
promised our listener that you would do it, so you're going to do it.
I'm so easily peer pressured. I'm ready to do it at this point. And I just genuinely have no idea.
And if you
how
don't
I-
know how easily peer pressured you are, just watch our latest YouTube video where we got you working in the dirt.
Oh my gosh, I was so fired up about that. So fired up. Yeah, I don't. I'm trying to figure out how I can extend our appreciation to Philip. I don't. I'm trying,
That was so weak.
that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to figure out. Unfortunately, my Pennsylvania Dutch, my Minnesotian, and my
So why don't you, in your Canadian accent, just talk about what this
I'm not
what
talking
this
about
relay
no,
race
I'm
is
done.
about?
I'm done. I'm over
I need
it.
to hear the about.
I'm What's this about? Oh, those Canadians. They're so silly. Oh my gracious. All right. So that's
okay, we
Philip.
can move on.
Philip, we really appreciate you, man. And we need the rest of our Jeep family to pull
Yes.
through and get
If
these
you're
TV
between
trays.
there and here,
Because
we need to know about it.
we need to know about it. We need you to reach out. I don't care if this is your first time ever reaching out to us. We need to know about it. If you participate, we are going to make a custom T-shirt that is going to commemorate your participation in the Great TV Tray Relay Race
Yes.
from the beautiful state of New Hampshire down to the shores of Lake
and
Erie.
we need a picture of it going from Jeep to Jeep.
Jeep to Jeep. And you're going to get a free T-shirt that's going to commemorate it. It says you participated. It will be exclusive for the participants, and we'll have
And
that
you'll
out.
get to see the joy in Neil's face.
Well, especially because my OCD has taken over with the god-awful, ugly, dirty tray that Jeff is using, or
And
cart,
we're refusing to clean it.
that was refusing to clean.
It might get dirtier between now and when we get the
oh,
Rochelle
my
trays.
goodness. Oh, my goodness.
As long as we don't let Scott near it to clutter it up with tools at the
Oh,
same time.
I'm surprised it's not loaded up with stuff already.
Correct?
I'm surprised it's not loaded up with
Just
stuff.
give me time.
No doubt.
Usually
So,
time for you is a half hour. and it's
Anything
already
going on in
completely
your
buried.
guys' lives? What did you do again besides work on metal for the umpteenth time?
Well, I finally decided to tear apart my starter that's been languishing on the bench forever. like most things I started with, it's pretty much worn out, so that's good.
Did you buy anything good with this car?
I
I mean, I feel like
it's-
you're like hashtag not a restoration. You just bought an idea. You bought a dream.
I did buy an idea, and people keep telling me I have a really good car, so I'm guessing I did. And the motor and transmission that I bought that were completely worn out of a field in Kansas, in a 36 pickup truck, were also worn out. But everyone gets really excited when I tell them what they were. So they had good bones, I
They have
guess.
good bones.
And
That's a lot of our customers that we do
Right.
restorations or frame off work for as well.
Ryan just chimed in. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Shots fired.
I keep trying to buy a whole new starter, but I'm cheap, so I don't want to pay, like full blown retail for it. And that's been blowing up in my face. I literally had someone had a brand new starter in the box, and they refused to sell it to me.
Oh,
So he wanted to sell everything flathead as a lot, and there was heads and intakes and carburetors and everything else in there. And I was like, I don't need all that. I need a
Right,
starter. So
right.
I'm not. No.
was the price for the whole lot?
I mean, it was
good?
fair,
It was fair,
but
but you just need the
I
starter.
just need a starter.
Now, when you say a new starter, I mean we're talking about we're pushing we're pushing a 90-year-old
So
starter.
PowerMaster makes a brand new starter for this that looks old. Is around $400. They also make a high torque
Okay.
that will also work, which is similar priced. And that's just so many things in this car have been $400. I'm like resisting.
I see.
I mean,
You're trying to ride on principle at this moment.
and I have a starter, and every time I ask about it, everybody's like, just fix one that you got and put it on there. It'll work fine. Okay,
Yeah.
here we are again.
Until it leaves you stranded.
So I did, I don't know if I even talked about it on the podcast. I bought a period correct snap-on growler, and it is what you use to check the armature of generators and starters. So I'm going to let the growler be the yay or the nay. If the growler says that the armature is good, then we will buy the pieces to put this poor thing back together and see if it starts another day.
So this is how I know Scott and I were raised very differently, because he says growler and he's talking about a tool.
You're thinking.
I'm
you're
thinking about beer.
You're thinking about beer.
No idea what that is.
Yes. I was gonna say. And this is where I entered the picture, and I know both.
Yeah. So, how can you go wrong for a $20 snap-on tool?
It
looked like it was
it's 'cause
never
nobody
used.
else wanted
It was
it.
probably never used.
Nobody else wants it.
If I'm
fine.
buying a growler for $20, it better come with beer.
So
Nice.
that is where I'm at on that. I did get my new to me throttle linkage and got that sandblasted installed without incident, so that was good. I did have to trim the darn pads again,
Oh my
but what are you
God.
gonna do? I also finally found a grommet for my wiring that's been holding me up putting wire out into the engine bay that I hid from myself for like a month and a half. So
I hate it when Past Neil hides things from me.
it's terrible.
Oh man, the guy's such a jerk sometimes when I'm working on something.
And the other exciting thing is, and you'll have to, I'll do a reveal when it's done.
Okay.
But the dash has left the brown property and is at paint.
Ooh.
So your guess on what the color is going to be? I thought I knew it was going to be until I dropped it off, and then they did a Shanghai on me. So I'm really excited.
Threw a curveball.
It's going to be done by a really good friend of the business. Does great work. We're working with him on personal projects here, and he's doing the dash for the 36. So I am
cool.
excited. And once it's done, I'll have it all wrapped up and we'll show it on camera.
Cool.
Very
cool,
nice.
Cool. Absolutely. And Jeffrey, anything?
So I had a very busy weekend. I'm going to start by just talking about the nonprofit organization that I'm working on building. So we have settled on a name. It's going to be called Heberly's Heartstrings.
Oh,
That's a good name.
So it's a play off the family's last name.
Yeah.
Jason Heberly was who passed away, and his parents are the ones sponsoring most of the money up front.
sure.
The heartstrings, of course, because it's musical instruments and it's playing on the hearts of musicians.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that is the name we settled on. I finalized a lot of paperwork. I've got some initial filings put in. I completed the bylaws of the organization. Holy cow, that was a lot of glazing over the eyes as you're
Yeah.
typing away. for the legal formats and everything.
Sure.
So that's all moving very well. I did some planning. I reached out to Daddy Jeep because he had offered up some donations. I reached out to him and planned a tentative date to go pick up some of that stuff from him in Smethport, PA.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if that Great Tray Relay is making it to there by October
Nice.
22nd, that's
Nice.
the tentative date that I'll be out that way.
Yes.
So that means we're gonna have a picture of you loading a piano in the back of a Gladiator.
That's the plan. And it's possible that I might just recruit Davey for Muscles to go with and film.
And video, right?
So there's that. Then additionally, on Sunday, I stuck to the motto of being the wheelman for the business, and I drove out to Vermilion to pick up a customer Jeep. And that customer had care packages set inside the Jeep for us.
Yes.
There's
that's
a
what you
box
said.
there that we're going to have to open up here in a minute on air. Plus, he had a separate box that had my name on it. And he said, I heard that you eat like, however you guys described it. He reworded it exactly.
Sure.
All the junk food inside that box.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. You're a garbage disposal, to say
Yeah.
the least.
yeah. So that was awesome. I'm excited to see what's in that box.
Like a teenager, unregulated in
Yeah.
a convenience store.
Yeah,
basically.
that's what he
Yeah.
described.
Basically,
If
yeah.
you gave-
So-
That's how I conceptualize how you eat to other people.
If you gave our 10-year-olds like $100 and,
And
set
just
them loose,
set them loose
and
in
a Circle K,
in
this
Yes.
is what Jeff
Yes.
eats on a
I think
daily
what was in the
basis.
box.
This is what Jeff eats.
What was in the box? So the nice part about that is my wife Kristen and I drove out with her car and our kids. There was about as we're getting there, we were passing a rest stop, and I was like, oh, I wonder if there's bathrooms there because the kids said they had to go.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, there's maybe it's just a pull off. There's no additional signs for bathrooms or anything. So I passed it, and as we're passing, I'm going, wow, that looked like a really nice rest stop. We get to Chip's house, and I'm talking to him about it, and he goes, oh, there's actually a walking path on there and everything. So we stopped at the rest stop on the way back,
Yes.
and there's actually a nice set of trails, a very nice overlook over the Vermilion River.
Yes.
It's beautiful rest
Yeah, I was,
stop.
I was
So-
a little jelly when I saw your pictures.
yeah.
And Chip actually just chimed in. And he says it's the diet of an unsupervised grade schooler.
That's
which-
what I
Yes.
literally
which-
just said.
Yep. Yep. It's the same concept, right?
Yes.
And I just
Yes.
and why I talk about your diet to so many people, I mean, besides the fact that our
It's just
listeners
fun.
and followers, I know, but I mean, I'm always like, because I don't know if your arteries are just going to clog up one day, or you just have the metabolism that I don't know 99% of the
That's why
country
he weighs
wishes for.
85 pounds.
Oh, listen, Schmedium. listen. I'm not here for your smack, right?
I didn't. I
Years
was,
ago, I bought. No, I'm going to air my grievances.
That's fine.
I'm going to air my
I'm
grievances.
a large, in case you wondered.
no.
The best part is right now
I bought you a large. Years ago, I bought coats for all the guys, for all the employees and family extended of the
I
business.
still have it.
And the first coat, he pulls it out of the thing, and he's like, "It's not going to fit me," and it was a large.
I don't remember that. I think it was a medium.
No, you walked it. I think. No, you listen, Schmedium, over here
it was
dogging
an
on
extra
Jeffrey.
large.
It might have been an extra large.
It was an extra large because my wife has one. That's why. Anyway,
Just gonna be done with it.
that's
I'm
fine.
gonna
So
be done
anyways,
with this. Yes.
I think right now we should make all of
We
our
sh-
listeners take a guess at how much we each actually weigh, and then do a
Oh,
scale photo
that's
later.
Not fair.
What?
because
He's
last
all
time,
cocky over there.
last
85 pound this.
last time we did the scale thing, you had 20 pounds extra than you
Oh.
thought. So I think it's appropriate to redo it again.
It's how he carries it. It's right. It's how he carries it.
yeah.
Terrible.
Oh my gracious. We still need to do our one match fire before the weather kicks too much on us.
It's
It
getting to be that
was- we're
perfect
getting to
weather
be
where
that
you
perfect
actually want
weather.
the
I
fire.
was pretty sour at
no
the
doubt.
weather over the weekend. No, can't lie.
Oh, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it.
It was cold on the trails. I'll say that.
Oh, and that's what I was going to mention real quick is that what's kind of a neat initiative, certainly by the Ohio State Department of Transportation, was a lot of the rest areas, certainly the ones that have been developed in the last decade or so, have prioritized kind of outdoor ecological spaces.
Yes.
And it's been something kind of interesting so that as a purveyor of truck stops and rest stops, because I am a
Sketch-
frustrated trucker,
Sketchier
at
the
my
better
heart.
for Neil.
the sketchier the better.
And that is not an Ohio rest stop.
And
currently
that is
along
not
90.
Ohio rest stop stuff. There are some really beautiful forgotten rest areas in northern Pennsylvania, and then as soon as you get west And some of these rest areas that were built in the the 40s, 50s, and 60s by Army Corps of Engineers, or some of the workforce development programs of even earlier, between the world wars and whatnot. I love those rest areas. If they're super sketchy and I have to use like a pit latrine, I am here for that rest area. But
So it makes
Ohio,
Neil people.
that and day old rest stop or gas station coffee. I'm with simple pleasures in life. Simple pleasures.
about-
You like it when the creamer doesn't disperse into the coffee?
First of all, creamer is for Nancy's. I drink my coffee. If I can chew on my coffee, that's better.
Yeah.
If it's been burning at the bottom of the pot for about 24 hours, then we're actually getting to a good place. So,
Do you have any updates for us?
you know what? I had a fantastically busy weekend, and to kind of specifically conceptualize any one thing, I've got personal asset for sale all over the place, cars, trucks, just funsies, moving things around. Really had every serious intention to get into our house build again, but with some of just the very busyness of having 2 young kids and a career-driven wife, the weekends are spent catching up with them right now. But we did have the opportunity, and for those who are joining in, my wife and I started this house build. We actually broke ground, and that's breaking ground 2 years ago to date, which is kind of cool. That was clearing the property ourselves and getting a driveway kind of established, or at least where it's going to be. And so what I can say is we had a great weekend as a family doing stuff, but then we actually went out and just kind of hung out at the property to enjoy the leaves changing and the wildlife, and kind of being in that space that we are talk about the 36 or Ryan's hashtag not a restoration, that dream that we are buying, you know what I mean, that we're working towards. And so it was just a great opportunity to kind of reflect on that and kind of take a breath and go, this is why we're doing what we're doing.
Yep.
And anything worth having is worth working towards. So
Just to go to the comments again, Joe said pit latrines frighten me, paranoid that his keys or phone will fall in.
oh,
Gotta have a
it's-
buddy system.
Right?
Wait, I'm sorry. Wait a second. No, both of you. No. What buddy system and pit latrines? What do you two know about buddies?
I know that I
and
would
pit
go in and go,
latrines?
nope, and I'd book it.
The buddy system was that your buddy went in there first and went, nope, there's a pit latrine in there. You don't go in. You go find that tree instead.
Yes.
So anyways, to an earlier comment of Joe's that I did not get to,
Yes.
he asked if our tray currently was the tray that we used for animal sacrifices when working on a JK with a parasitic draw that seems to be untraceable.
I am a resilient individual, but realistically,
The Jeep almost broke us.
there are a couple Jeeps that are just straight up trying to break me right now. There's
So the ones that Lemon Law wrote for.
Yes.
yes.
Yes, without question.
No, that's,
Um,
and unfortunately, our reputation is kind of built on this, this propensity to not give up.
hey,
and,
Davey, come here for a second with what you got in your hands.
this propensity not to give
All
up.
right,
and
we've saved some
Let's-
Jeeps. We're
Let's
unsavable.
show this on camera for a second, what Davey's working on. I'm going to make him get on camera.
but
there he
everybody
is.
wants to see
There
the
it is.
Savage.
What do you got there?
He doesn't talk. he's like
He's
the
the Savage.
Stig. He's the Savage. It's
Oh, you don't have a mic.
okay.
Okay.
Well,
You know,
I'll share.
He's holding. So we have we're gonna be Savage and Jeffrey. Bye, Davey. Thanks for coming on set,
Yep,
man.
Thanks, Davey.
I'm totally screwing this up now.
You are. Oh, my
Just don't
gosh.
let it stick to itself.
So
No.
Savage is working, making
Pop.
sure that we have some good T-shirts for sale this weekend. This weekend is the Bantam Trail
Come
Fest.
save this, Davey. I don't want to be
yeah.
responsible.
Oh yeah,
He's
Scott
gonna ruin
should
your
not
vinyl
be
if you don't.
responsible for that whatsoever.
That looks like you have
So-
lots of work in
So,
that.
so Scott is holding up a sheet of vinyl that says "I Speak Jeep" SFJ 4x4.
Yep, just real clean, real simple. We're looking at making a handful of shirts. to help people represent, and those will be available this weekend for sale. If you'd like to do any type of pre-ordering or reaching out, as far as just you're not going to be at Bantam Trail Fest, but you want one of these shirts. It kind of has a throwback to the OG I Speak Jeep that we had released almost a decade ago at this point. But it just keeps it real simple across the front, and then just your new school branding of the SFJ 4x4.
How much are those shirts going to go for?
I think we're going to keep those at the $20 range. So I know that shirts went up a little bit this summer, but the goal is to keep them, keep it simple and affordable and just in and out. And so people want that. Probably going to be a classic black with the red vinyl. If you want white vinyl, we can probably oblige as well. And if you really want to get froggy and you want to do a color-coded shirt like we've done in the past, we're happy to take custom orders and do a blue shirt or a yellow shirt or an orange shirt or red or whatever, and we can get you outfitted. Obviously, it will be a little extra charges there, but get you taken care of.
John wants a tank top like the one Neil was sporting in an earlier video.
Totes.
So you got to get
Totes.
John one of those. Chuck is asking for a few sized extra sexy. And then Darla says, hi from Oklahoma.
Hey, okay.
I bet you it's
see
warm there.
It's fine here. God, what is up?
Scott's over here trying to turn the heater on.
Right?
Your heater's on at your house, isn't it?
Been on.
Oh, that is a dad fail.
I thought about
right now
turning it up.
across the country, all of our listeners, followers, and friends are going, "Oh, I can't believe your heat's on."
Yep.
Silly.
Never put the fuzzy blanket on the bed even.
All right, we're supposed to be talking about Jeeps. We're going to be talking about.
We got to open that package from Chip.
We are. We're going to open it. It's going to take Scott 15 minutes to get it down from there, anyways.
Well, Neil, you might have to help him with that because
We're going to be
he's
talking
gonna
about
take out all the
turning-
microphones.
He is. He has no ability to do this gracefully. We're talking about turning your Jeep into a trailer. Scott's dropping things on set, folks, for those who can't hear. That's why we're giggling.
Careful not to cut the mic cable with that knife.
Oh, gosh. Or any of us.
That's
We're-
I'm
dull.
more worried
workman-
about the mic cable.
Our workman's comp policy, folks, is we shove you to the corner of the street and let you
Ooh.
bleed out there. Oh, what's this say? What? Maybe you shouldn't be allowed to read it.
SOJ, I don't break, I buy. Please enjoy this box of snacks. Thanks for going above and beyond to help with Natasha.
I don't think it said I don't break. I think it says I don't bake.
It says I
Oh.
don't bake. Jeff didn't even need to read it. It was literally opened on air for everybody.
That's fine. Honey butter chips.
Scott,
I am intrigued.
Scott can read the most phenomenally
I-
complex wiring schematic, folks.
I just read too fast. That's the problem.
That is, your brain's going too fast.
I'm not even going to try to say that
I
word.
love the
You're gonna say that for me?
uniqueness. 1 pound of Bellerix potato chips.
Smoky, sweet.
A pound of
heat.
potato chips. This sounds
Marcelled
amazing.
potato chips.
What
100 years locally owned.
I've never heard of this.
So I'm
brand.
going to guess that one's original.
Oh
Although
my
that's smoky
gosh.
sweet.
You know what? We had a customer do a
Oh.
Cleveland care package
boy.
last year.
Oh boy.
And I think we have the best.
You're allowed to see it from here, Jeff.
Oh, look at that Danish. That is amazing.
So there's a cheese Danish in
real
there.
cheese Danish. Jay Skinner. This is.
Oh, now you're talking.
Cinnamon rolls with maple icing.
I'm more interested in the cinnamon rolls, I gotta say.
Oh my gosh! I know what's for lunch today.
Right?
That's what's up?
That's
you know what?
way
The
better than what I
fastest
packed
way.
for lunch.
The fastest
Yep.
way to.
Yep.
Oh, there's our
to
coffee.
our heart is through our stomachs. Oh, this is the Adventure Blend from Trail Recon. And I know Chip was really excited to share this with us as we are
we got
purveyors of
horsepower.
coffee.
Ooh.
Ooh, Hurspurs from from Trail Recon, which is
Oh,
another great
We're
YouTube.
putting one of those stickers right on the computer.
There you go.
I said one. You can have.
And
There's like.
let's just put one on
four.
put it on your dirty cart there for a second. So
I don't want to get
it
them real. They're
says
so fancy.
dark roast with hints of maple bourbon.
I can't wait to try that.
So this is a
We should
fully
start-
loaded coffee.
We should start brewing that now, and about Friday it'll be ready for Neil.
I do like a fresh pot. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean. So folks who have served me that, there's no problem there. But I'm not about to get fancy. If I can chew on my cowboy coffee, I'm perfectly fine.
We're not.
And I look forward to this stuff.
We're not sponsored, but I'm gonna give the use code to save 5% off your next purchase for Trail Recon. 5 off sticker. That's the number 5 off sticker. That's a free code that you can have.
There you
Go
go.
use it. Get some coffee.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. And thank you so much, Chip, for thinking about us and obviously being very generous. And anybody who's done this for us, we do absolutely recognize it, and we thank you for that. So
Those honey butter chips just sound good.
oh yeah, we're
do.
gonna tear that up today. We're gonna tear it all up. So we're gonna be talking about turning your Jeep into a trailer,
Yes.
or as I have had to share a couple times, a toad.
Oh, Chip clarified the pronunciation of the chips.
Ballrich.
Ballrich. And stickers included, and it says, the coffee will smell amazing when brewing. I can't wait.
Yeah, hey, I'm good for that. I'll be making a pot this afternoon. The whole showroom. If you're listening to this and you're local to us, come in and share some of this with us. I'm going to brew up a pot, and there will be Danishes and cinnamon rolls today. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So if chips too, there's a pound of chips. You can join with us, So anyways, so we're going to be talking about creating a toad out of your Jeep, and it's important to note that I am actually in a couple social pages about actually using or repurposing Jeep tubs or bodies for trailering. That's not exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So in this multi-part series of towing, we've talked about some of our shenanigans, using our own tow experiences.
I've drug an MB around before.
Yep, flat towing.
Yes.
But also our shenanigans just towing in general. Trucks, trailers, so on and so forth. We've discussed technical specifications of some of our more popular models of Jeeps and their tow ratings, how we should or shouldn't use them. We've went ahead and then discussed towing upgrades. So how do we make our vehicle handle better when towing? And now we're in our fourth installation of this series, and arguably we're going to put this one to bed today. So no matter what we have or have not accomplished, it's done at this point for 2023. But we are talking about towing our Jeep behind something else.
Yes.
And so right now the concept of expensive camping is incredibly popular, and definitely one that we can have a lot of fun with. Part of that is if you find yourself at a point in your life where you have an RV of some capacity, so be it a large C class or a big pusher, and you want to take your Jeep along with you, what are the things that will help you do that?
Yep.
And so recently we have actually done a number of installations, and specifically this is something that we've done for a really long time, because it's actually a little bit of a pet peeve of mine that so many people go to kind of your dedicated RV or moving store, and they think that those individuals are going to
That they're the most qualified.
Yes. to set you up to do that. And it's frustrating because Jeeps, obviously we're biased, but Jeeps are such a unique platform that we really want to retain their rugged off-road experience and their ability to be a Swiss Army knife.
And I would say they're one of the easier things to become a trailer.
They are one of the easier trailer mods.
Having, has a frame, has relatively decent bumpers, or will when we're done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
And lighting and that kind of stuff is more routine. Now, if you need to tow your front wheel drive car behind something like that, that is involved in that. I can see where they could be maybe more.
Put it on a
better.
tow dolly.
Well, yeah, and even still with that, even still with, you know what? I'm just doing it. And I wheel without my shoes on.
Oh
No.
man.
This shoe is out of the
Touched by
studio.
diesel.
Yep, I just discovered there was diesel dookie on the bottom of my shoe in the studio, and that is gone. I just kicked that thing out of here.
Hey, Davey.
So if you've ever wheeled with me and I end up in socks, or just barefoot,
Davey, could you attend to that?
no, David is absolutely not allowed to clean dog dookie off of my shoe. I draw the line. I lead by example. I will not allow that to happen.
funny.
I'm not asking that of anybody but myself and my old man dog.
Yes.
So
We'll have Davey film it though.
yeah. So now I am one shoe on, one shoe off in studio at this point. It's like I'm wheeling.
As you should be.
So whatever.
Chip said, "Poor Scott, get him a clothespin."
Yeah, I was like, I'm good. I'm freshy fresh, but that shoe was not. So,
Chuck, Neil's fire starters, aka socks. Chuck, if you
Perfect.
only knew what he pulled out of his locker.
that might be on
He
video
had to
somewhere.
prove he was a football player in high
That
school.
might be.
Oh, did he ever? I
Those were
wonder.
clean socks.
I don't
They
believe
were
it.
clean.
I heard on good record that they were not clean.
They were clean. I keep extras.
I'm pretty sure that
change
was
of
a
extras.
solid ball of sock.
You know what?
There was no
None of-
softness to that.
That will be on YouTube at some point in time. That will be on YouTube some point in time. Remember when we were talking about Jeeps and actually constructive things to this
What's
to
that?
this podcast?
So like everything we do, we've done it wrong, so we know how to do it right for you.
Well, you've done this wrong.
Well, you've done it wrong too. You've been part of that.
I have been
You're
privy
guilty
to
by
it.
association.
Guilty by association. And when we say that, so the concept of flat towing your Jeep is really what we're kind of the
Yes.
storyline we're dancing around.
Well, and I think it's important that as we get into that, we talk about what to position the gears for that, how to position it,
Correct.
because of the damage that can be done.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Oh,
misnomers
yeah.
and conversations out there about what and how they should be doing things.
But
So-
even just technology. I mean, back in the day, you literally just had something that looked like it should have been the front of a tongue of a trailer, and you, by some means, bolted that to the front of your Jeep. And if you're really cool, you drive around on the trail with it up.
yes,
That's like a rite of passage.
that's like
for
a rite of
Willys owner.
passage for an old school Jeep owner.
And they don't have any lights. They don't have any braking assist. You're just simply going up, trying to put that on the ball, which is more challenging than you ever thought it was.
Well, right, because ultimately an
They're
A-frame,
never
what
in
they
the right
used to call
spot.
an A-frame tow bar,
Yes.
right? And so that's what we're talking about, folks. And so making a toad, which is the RV community kind of calls it a toad in jest, right? But ultimately it originated from TOWED, toad. But then ultimately you'll see, the RV community have a little fun with it and call it a TOAD, toad, like ribbit.
Mhm.
And we've been flat dragging vehicles for eons, right?
As soon as they made two Jeeps, they were flat towing something.
That's exactly right. As soon as we had two, we were going to flat tow the other one, you
Yes.
know? And there's so many very cool things about this kind of this vintage technology. And there is something iconic, exactly what you just said.
They
This
the
vintage
MBs
iron
came factory equipped on some of them with a
With-
A-frame on the front
with
of
an
them
A-frame on them.
with a
right?
pencil ring.
With a pintle ring. And
Yes.
so you
Joe
could,
just chimed in and said, "I saw a YouTube video that says it's best to tow with it in 4 low."
Especially if you want to LS swap it afterwards.
if you want to do a full driveline swap,
yeah.
392 Hemi in your future.
Yes.
So as we're talking about flat towing specifically, because ultimately that's the part of making a Jeep a trailer. Because a trailer is a trailer, and you can load your Jeep on and off, and that's fine. Or a tow dolly is a trailer.
Yes.
But when you want to make your Jeep a trailer, that's really what we're going to be discussing today.
And should we do like 2 seconds of why it's beneficial?
Well, and then I don't think I completed my thought about the RV stores, and I just want to finish that, and then we'll
Bash
go
it
to
one more time.
I will. The fact that the
Kick them while
care,
they're down.
care and precision that we as a business want to put into your ability to use your Jeep once you get to your campsite on and off road is what will differentiate us from a standard RV business, which makes us particularly unique to speak about this subject.
And to make it pretty layman's terms, we don't use Scotch locks when we put harnesses on.
Correct. And almost all RV or towing and storage solution businesses just use non-weather tight connections,
Yes.
specifically Scotch locks,
Yes.
which will eventually, after prolonged exposure to off-road and on-road elements, will degrade your electrical
A
system.
month of northeastern Ohio.
Will absolutely get in and cause problems.
Yeah.
We've seen brand new vehicles with wiring issues because
And
of
if you ever need proof to it, just go and look under a brand new car trailer, and every single junction on that wiring harness is done like that.
yeah. It's
and I
just
go, what?
it's just it's speed to market. It's just getting the vehicle out the door as
Yeah.
fast as possible, and the fact that then they hang the plugs down low or a base plate, which is what the tow bar oftentimes hooks into in the Jeep,
Yes.
does drastically affect your approach angle.
Mhm.
So those are all things to be considered when we are making your Jeep into a trailer. Now, why would we want? Why are we particularly adept at it for our customers? Why would an individual want to make their Jeep into a trailer?
Well, we're
to
good at
flat
it
tow
because
it.
we're cheap. And if you have a trailer, now you have another thing to plate. You have another thing to maintain. You have four more tires, ideally on a car trailer.
Right.
I'm here for some vintage single axle goodness for like light Willys.
For a car trailer, back in the day, car
Yes.
trailers did have single axles.
Yeah, they
that was,
did.
I remember looking
I should
at
try
one.
to park the Gladiator on one of those and see
No,
what happens.
100%.
I should not do that. But
I,
anyway,
Kneel
I
for
haven't
it.
seen one for sale in eons.
you're not
but-
on enough early Ford groups.
Oh, is that the difference? I need to get involved in some vintage iron group.
Yeah.
Real quick, I think it's funny to note that Lee just chimed in and said that he actually saw that YouTube video Joe's talking about. It was a good one, and there's parts everywhere.
Yes.
We'll get more to that in a minute.
Yes.
So any which way, so you're already plating your Jeep. You're already maintaining your Jeep. You already have good tires on your Jeep. So why not just tow it flat?
And that's exactly what I shared with a customer at the end of the week last week. They were talking about switching their tires out, and I was like, yeah, you could.
Mm-hmm.
But these tires that you have are really nice tires. These are
Yes.
good tires. They look good.
Yep.
You don't want to switch them when you get to your campsite.
Yep.
That's you bought your Jeep because you liked how this looked.
Right.
And
And the other struggle with that is, with tires aging out now at 4.5, 5 years.
tops.
If you have two sets, which I think is a good idea, and I do try to have dual sets on some vehicles, you don't get the life out of them.
No.
Because you're they're spending half the time sitting there decaying, not getting used. So that is a challenge.
And Scott is speaking to that for all of our internet warriors and podcast listeners who may or may not be immediately associated with us internally to our brick and mortar. He's speaking specifically about the rubber compound, the fact
Yes.
that tires at this point are not what they were even just 10 years ago, honestly. But certainly not what they were 30 or 40 years ago. The idea that rubber compounds themselves have so many synthetics and other additives involved in the tire itself that ultimately that tire is starting to dehydrate pretty much kind of out of the
Immediately.
box immediately.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so even if you took fantastic care of that tire, the likelihood is it's still going to, and you didn't use any additional
Silicone
products or any type of petroleum based product, that it's still going to dry rot within 5 to 7 years.
yes.
That's just the reality of our tires by today's standards. So that's where that statement comes from.
And the minute they get
Anywho.
hot, that kind of stuff, that's when failure happens.
Yes.
So you want to keep those fresh. Anyway, trailers are one of the worst offenders because you use it for a weekend, it gets shoved out somewhere.
Yep.
It might even be hid away at some other property, and then you don't think about it again until you need to drag it somewhere else again.
That's a good idea. I should take my camper and park it on the back of Scott's property like you do.
Scott has a wonderful storage lot.
I don't think you can fit because you made it 20 foot tall.
That's
Oh,
true.
I can make it fit.
That
I got
is- it's-
chainsaws.
Well, Jeffrey is originally from
Stay
Erie.
clear from my trees. You got one
Yeah.
tree you haven't cut down in 2 years.
One tree. Jeffrey
Hey,
is from
the tree
Erie.
was cut down.
Jeffrey
just
is
left
from
big
Erie.
logs for
Oh
it.
my God! And they do their tall ship celebration.
That's right.
And so that is the inspiration for his camper.
It
I am
is.
sure.
That's why it's a pirate ship.
That's right. All right. So now that we've done a little bit of contextualizing why this is of value, why we think we're particularly well suited to it, now we'll go back and we say some of these Jeeps actually had these A-frames, and they were a fixed Know,
Yes.
solid A-frame.
Yep.
And if you can
Which is
imagine,
very robust.
which is very robust.
Yes.
But if you can imagine just how challenging it is for,
I wasn't ready the first time I tried to hook up the MB behind. At the time, I had Chuck Norris before
Sure.
it was Chuck Norris. And I was like, this is going to be so awesome. I'll have my new Jeep and my old Jeep, and there'll be a cool photo opportunity. I ended up getting a jack and sliding the front of the Jeep around to finally put it on the ball.
That's exactly what the statement I was going to say. How hard it is to back up to a trailer as it is.
Yes.
Now, here's the funny thing about these darn A-frames, folks, and if you don't remember this is what made our grandfathers and great-grandfathers or dads or whoever the greatest generation, because somehow they just managed to do this without fussing, or they fussed a lot.
If you
and-
get close, you're putting it on there with sheer force.
Well, yes, but the thing is, those A-frames don't have a tongue jack under them.
No.
Right? So you had to find something to hold it upright.
Yes.
Because if you got backed up to it and the tongue was down and now you were actually in position and you
Now
go to
it's
pick the
under the-
A-frame up,
yeah.
now it's
Yep.
under
Yes.
your hitch.
Yeah.
You know? If it's in the upright position, you
It's a
legitimately
really
have,
nice groove in your tailgate.
absolutely it smacks into your tire carrier.
Yes.
There's no good way to keep that up other than shoring up a piece of wood or something underneath of it to keep it outright.
And then because it's me, Neil would have just towed it because I can see the lights on the vehicle. We're fine.
100%.
I had magnetic lights that then I had to go through the steering wheel or around here, around the seat, because we're talking an open top Jeep. So there's stuff.
You wouldn't have wanted to go through the steering wheel. That was a bad idea.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And then I can't remember. I think I went by the mirror, through the hood catch, and then I had to like weave it through the A-frame and then finally plug it into the Jeep. And I never went very far, thankfully. I think it was like mostly from here to my house and back, just because I towed my Jeep.
Yeah, totes.
Until I realized it was a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, for me, and I get that. And back in the day, you didn't really worry too much about the lights.
No.
Right? I mean,
I remember my dad saying, if you can see the vehicle that's towing its lights, you don't need lights. And
well,
I'm
and
like,
unfortunately, I was cut from that cloth as well.
Yeah.
And I'm in love with all things Big Booty Judy, and
Yes.
so dualies and wide hips on vehicles are of my own personal interest. So, small garden trailers and small Jeeps, you didn't
Yes.
have to put any lights on them,
Yep.
That's not okay by today's standards,
No.
folks. That age has come to an end, and we
Yeah,
must
we're not just
illuminate.
dragging the farm trailer down the street no more.
Correct. So many people are out there doing this at this point
Yeah.
that there are standardized expectations amongst our first responders and law enforcement. Additionally, a concept of liability insurance legalities regarding, are you equipped for the task at hand?
Not to mention light placement, depending on the size of the trailer.
Yep.
There's very specific colors of lights, measurements, the distances that they have to be apart, where they have to be located.
Mhm.
So there's all sorts of
And
things.
it's amazing how when you have an old vintage 40s Jeep it was rusty, but there was mostly metal there, and those magnetic lights would not stick to it to save my life.
Sure, they just weren't
They spent
robust
most
enough.
time on their side.
Yes,
not doing
I
the darn
remember
thing.
that. Well, and then additionally, one of the things that I think is important when we talk about flat towing in general is the fact that our world is going very fast.
Yes.
And so, and I say that very authentically, not to be like, hey, everybody's busy and that's why we can't get together on Friday nights for, for poker night anymore. I say that because we literally are going farther, faster, and under harsher conditions than we as Western civilization has ever traveled before. So the expectation that you're going to get into your RV, your diesel pusher, or just your general tow rig and drive 14, 18 hours through the hills, through the the mountains, that's not out of the question.
Yep.
You're not just going a couple hours and a bias ply tire falls off and you're going to stop for dinner at the diner and you're going to
Right.
pitch your tent and all that kind of stuff. We're traveling 70, 80 miles per hour.
I mean, just think when we were little, 55 was most standard speed. Then we went to 65 and everybody went 70. That was like the unwritten rule. Now we're at 70 and everybody goes 90.
And I think that is
Especially if you're deaf.
that is exactly what I'm trying to share, Scott.
I grew up in Erie where in the winter, if you were not doing 85 miles an hour on I-90 in a 55 zone, you were getting passed by grandma.
That's true.
Well, and so ultimately that is And that is true. That is an eerie problem.
That is
It really is.
They just need to change the darn
don't know
speed
why
limit
they
outside the
made it
mall.
55.
I don't
They
understand why it's
Still,
55 on
decades
90.
later, it's 55, and nobody does it. But whatever.
So many.
It just
semis,
increases
like-
revenue, I think, every
Yes.
once in a blue moon.
I don't even think it does that because the state police pass you.
Yes, that's true. I've had it
Non-emergency
happen.
all the time.
So ultimately, but that is exactly the testament. As I was driving down the highway the other day, and I thought, when just within the last 3 decades, 55 was the average speed limit
Yes.
in most places, and then it went up, and then it's gone up again. And to think that our vehicles can comfortably handle this.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what you did years ago. That little Willys would shake and rattle apart if you thought you were
At
going to
4250.
Yes, if you thought you were going to run down the highway at 80, flat dragging that little Willys, the bearings.
No, that's when you do need a trailer.
It is when you need a trailer because the bearings. And think about this. This is just our technology in general. You used to have to pack individually the hub bearings and the axle bearings.
So you're only as good as Grandpa did it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so the idea that, quite frankly, the technology that exists on that old school Jeep is not what even exists on these newer Jeeps that's getting pulled behind the motorhomes.
Yep.
And that's one of the very finite little things that makes it different than what it once was.
And that's another classic example. Every situation is unique, and that's why me personally tailor what you're going to do. And the first things we're always going to ask you is how are you going to use it? What are you going to do with it? And how
100%.
far are you going to go?
Yep.
Then we're going to give you the right recipe.
Yep. And that is 100%. You conceptualize that very well. So when it comes to the right recipe, the A-frames are gone, right? We
Yeah.
don't do that anymore because we have already told you we did things dumb. We learned things the hard way. We've done it for you. You don't have to do it now. The A-frames are out. Even the fixed arms, they thought they were really classy, and they got away from the A-frames, which was a solidly fixed A-frame, and they went with 2 arms that pivoted at
Yeah, so you could
hitch mount.
get it on the ball easy, right?
So you could get it on the
I
ball.
still have one of those in my shed. I don't know why. But anyway. And then you pull forward, and they kind of center, and you lock them down.
Yep, that's exactly right. So that is also kind of out of the picture as well anymore. It just nobody actually wants to use those anymore.
No.
As the general consumer, ain't nobody got time for that.
No.
So again, our world has just gotten faster. Our expectation out of our vehicles has increased, and our expectation of ourselves and the components we're using. So there's a handful of primary product manufacturers: Roadmaster, Demco, Blue Ox. And I'm trying to think if there's one other one. I know I'm forgetting. Maybe
I
Reese.
think there's one more, but I don't remember
A
the name
little
of it.
bit. So there's a handful of these manufacturers who have reasonably built their empires on ensuring that you can safely and confidently and comfortably
And
flat toe.
repetitively.
Yes, yeah, and consistently being able to do it in a repetitive fashion, flat drag your vehicle all around the country, however you see fit.
Yep.
So when it comes to that, there is a marriage that has to happen between the towing vehicle. A shout out to one of our customers. Tom is a great repeat customer. He calls it his bus. So I'm going to refer to it as your bus. It might be a Class C. It might be a small C, a big C. It might be an A. It might be a big or a little A. I don't really care.
In this instance,
I'm gonna
it
call
could
it
be
your
a-
bus.
Could be a pickup truck. It doesn't really
It could
matter.
be.
We're just talking about the vehicle being towed. But there has to be a marriage between the two.
Correct. I was going to say that's a great differentiation to say. It could be even a pickup truck with or without a camper in the bed of it.
Yep.
Just
Scott
it's
has
your
always
towing
great
vehicle.
ideas.
Scott has great ideas, folks. So, we've got T-shirt ideas up like crazy. I want like a grandma's couch shirt. I want obviously the Great Race, the TV Trade Great Race T-shirt, and I need a shirt that says Scott has great ideas or Scott has all the great ideas.
Scott has the best ideas.
is the best ideas. So,
Let's go back to on task. That's
No.
what I was trying to do.
While we're off task, your
Okay.
wife Amy said good morning.
Good morning, Amy.
And then Chip said, and by no means do not use silicone-based tire shine. I feel like he recently learned that lesson, and I gotta say, when I picked up
it was
his
a little
Jeep,
abused.
there was no fresh tire shine on there. It had been washed off.
And for our listeners, and you know this to be true, we'll say it. We've said it once. We've said it 100 times. There is no greater offense to Greg, our lead performance mechanics,
Yes.
religion, than to use a silicone-based tire shine.
Yes.
I mean, if you ever thought the Yo Mama jokes were bad in the 90s, use some tire shine on your tires and bring it here for Greg to work on.
Yes.
It's just a grievance against his humanity.
Oh yeah.
I actually don't have a problem with it because of the reason you said. Tires by today's standards wear out so quickly anyways.
Yeah.
This tire shine does not
I understand where he's coming from.
but
though.
I understand the science behind it,
Yeah.
right? But I think it's so funny how fired up he gets about his tire shine.
Oh, Chip,
Anyway.
Chip gave you another shirt idea. We need the Neil and Davey shirt. The awkward couple. We are here. Let's make it weird.
I am here to make it weird. So here we go. Back on task.
Yes. So there's some bare things that we want. We want to be able, when the leading vehicle steps on the brake, we want the lights on the towed vehicle behind
Yes.
to come on. We want turn signals and four ways to function.
Yes.
We would prefer some sort of braking assist
Absolutely.
for the front vehicle. We'd also would like some sort of safe attachment point on the front of the vehicle with approved tow bar that will let you
articulate
articulate.
between the bus and the toad.
Yep. Anything else that you can think of?
And I think that two little minutia pieces are going to be the ability to have a constant 12-volt supply
To charge the battery on the
to charge the battery on the vehicle
because we're using the brake lights.
because we're using the brake lights and potentially. Depending on the system itself, whether or not there's actually like a hydraulic assist or something for the
Well,
braking
and-
assist,
And some vehicles will put extra illumination on it as well, so you're going to be additional draw from the battery, so that 12 volt is
correct.
important.
And the last piece that I was going to include, just because you covered those initial bases very well. Besides the 12 volt, I want to retain the Jeep's rugged integrity.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. And so that is again the SFJ 4x4 difference is that both through longevity of installation
Mm-hmm.
and then through the use of that you want to put it through as the ownership.
Yes.
We want to retain that. And that's a little more of an intangible than the items that you were sharing.
Yes.
But those are the things that we're considering when consulting with a customer who's talking about trailering their Jeep behind whatever their towing vehicle is.
Yep. And part of that is there's a few aftermarket bumper manufacturers that are specifically thought as their design to
Well, and I
be
think
as
that
an attachment point.
It's valuable to say that the liability when you are towing your Jeep is somewhere.
Yeah.
So let's say, we never plan for best case scenarios. And I always say, when things don't go right, that's when stories are made, and so we tell stories about when things go wrong, and that's great and fun and fine. But the reality is, as a professional institution, we're always trying to build to a worst case preventative scenario.
Plan for the worst, expect the best.
And so, with that said, should you get into a hairy situation where you are in an accident of some sort, there
or
is
just trying to avoid one.
well, but no, I want to talk about you actually get into an accident, right? There is a liability and legality that has to be talked about, and so. The idea is that are your bases covered so that if you are actually into an accident and you have a reasonable loss of your towed vehicle, your towing vehicle, so your bus and your towed potentially, or that you have caused harm or damage to yourself or anybody else, the insurance company has to be involved, and obviously legal of some capacity becomes involved. And the idea that have you dotted your I's and crossed your T's?
Well,
Or are you using Grandpa's tow bar that you dug out of the barn and just kind of cobbed something together?
and I can tell you from experience of being on those scenes, those accident scenes, as soon as there's a towed vehicle involved, that immediately is looked at as at fault until it can be proven that it was done everything safe
You're almost
and everything
guilty
was right.
immediately.
You're guilty immediately until proven innocent in those situations, because the chances are that there is something that you did wrong in your setup.
Yep, there was.
You missed a clip, you didn't plug something in just right.
Yep.
Somehow, so the immediate blame goes to you. until it can be proven that you did everything safe and it was actually somebody else at
Correct.
fault.
Your exposure to risk is so great in those situations, and I can tell you from very factual knowledge. And this is a very tragic loss for my family. I actually lost a cousin recently, who was privately renting an RV. And so what that means is there are RV rental businesses out there.
Mhm.
There are even like Uber-ish RV rentals where you're going through a third-party
Yeah.
brokerage, right? Who has some formality
It's
associated
like an
with it.
Airbnb, but for RVs.
But exactly, right? My cousin rented, which, by society we can call it borrowed, right? Because that's the way legal and insurance looked at it. Somebody's RV, and went to do a kind of a, I'll be honest with you, an epic end of life trip for his spouse, and they were headed down through a mountainous region, and the brakes depreciated on the RV, and they ended up in a fatal accident. And the tragedy here is obviously that situation and what that means to our family and those specific individuals. But additionally, the person who had the RV got nothing, lost the investment of their RV in its entirety, because there was no policy rider covering the non-approved drivers. And the fact that it was on a trip that was not, technically something that the insurance company covers. So I don't have 100% of the facts, but that is the gross
gist of it.
generality, the gist of it. So unfortunately, with life, all the good in life, there are bad, and this is one of those situations where, as you had said, the exposure to risk is too great when you're in an RV or a towing capacity, and that's not something you do regularly.
Mhm.
So focusing on the safety of your equipment, and the fact that, and where I had jumped in, was the fact that these manufacturers assume liability
Yes.
when they create this components to ensure that you, as the consumer, have the best possible product. Now, insurance companies,
So no tow bars off Wish.
yeah, no tow bars off of Temu, and or dug out of the back of Grandpa's attic if you think you're going to do the 80, 90 miles per hour towing your brand new 4xe,
Yes.
behind your 40-foot diesel pusher.
Well, and it's important to note, too, even if you take the time to get stuff set up right, there is still the opportunity for dealing with trailer sway,
Yes.
and understanding what that feels like and how to correct for it.
Mm-hmm.
I've literally watched people swerving all over the road trying to straighten their trailer out, and I'm going, you're doing exactly opposite of what you
Correct.
need to be
You're
doing
making
right
it
now.
worse.
You're making
Yeah.
it worse. So that's why we're choosing a quality component as far as a tow bar and attachment points. Our one of our favorite recipes within reason is going to be a rock hard 4x4 bumper.
Mhm.
Rock hard 4x4 made fully made in the USA, super thick quality stuff. But more importantly, they've actually gone through and appropriately, checked the boxes to ensure that their bumper is tow ready.
Mhm.
You can then purchase some additional appropriate attachment brackets that will allow you to hook up to any number of tow bars, be it, again, Roadmaster, Blue Ox, Demco, Reese, those style tow bars. And so these brackets will hook to their bumper, or they'll, professionally attach to their bumper, and then you are technically using a manufactured bumper and tow point, a manufactured tow bar,
Yep.
and then you have professional installation from what we do.
And just a reminder, we're not sponsored by Rock Hard or any of those other brands
No.
that you just mentioned. This is just products that we know work.
And honestly, if we, just to reiterate, I don't think there's actually any of us who have rock hard on any of our own personal Jeeps.
No.
I think you have a little bit of rock hard
I-
for your
I-
winch plate,
for the
and
winch
your,
plate
yeah, and
and
your
bull
bull
bar.
bar. Yeah, but ultimately we're choosing products the best case that fit our customers' best cases.
Right.
Um,
And we've used them enough that we know how their products are, the quality they have. We
Yes.
just literally did some of this on a TJ, and goodness, the bumpers like the gauge of it's thick as heck.
Super thick in quality. And so ultimately the alternative to that bumper attachment point is then what's called a base plate. Base plates are typically manufactured by that towing company. The challenge to base plates is that they install hanging below your factory bumper.
Yeah, it might as well be a plow frame.
It might as well be a plow frame. So most people, they might not know what a base plate looks like, but they can typically know
where the
what
where
a plow
the blade
frame
attaches.
Yep. So there are some base plates that are more tight or high up to the vehicle. We've certainly on your Patriots, your Liberties, your Grand Cherokees, those typically install behind the bumper fascia. It does then require modification to your bumper, and you have these pins sticking through it. In those vehicles, we really can't avoid anything. But with our Wranglers, because typically we own our Wranglers for kind of a sporty, rugged look and feel, and then, maybe utilization, we'd like to avoid using that base plate at all costs. That's why we use the bumpers. When you have the base plate, you then go to tow bar. There's a couple different versions of tow bars. They are rated on their towing capacity, and the material that they are made out of dictates their price often. So their tow rating and the material that they're made out of. Certainly, if you struggle with the weight of a standard tow bars are usually in the 45 to 50 pound range, give or take. You can get an aluminum tow bar, which will obviously cut that weight by roughly a quarter to a third. Typically, those weight ratings are going to be between 7,500 pounds and 10,000 pounds. That's going to be more than sufficient for towing any of our Jeeps, minus a handful of our 1-ton Gladiator pickup trucks.
Yeah.
So, as far as how we load and weight down our towed vehicle, the tow bars themselves should be satisfactory for just about all of our Jeeps. They start to really get kind of above capacity when you get into towing a full-size pickup truck loaded down with gear behind your diesel pusher, right? That's really where we run into some issues. With that said, when we get to the tow bar, arguably my favorite thing to do with the tow bars is to give you a 2-inch receiver insert as opposed to a coupler. Now, that is, for technical terms, a coupler is going to be that Pintle 2-inch or 2 5/16" ball hitch coupler. So again, the piece that actually hooks onto the ball hitch or a pintle hook. Pintle hooks are pretty much out of the conversation for this, so we'll just kind of focus on ball hitches and 2-inch receivers.
I think I've seen ones that actually go into, have a square.
That's what I'm talking about, the 2-inch receiver.
Okay.
So that's what I know on Vintage you're not usually involved in this as much as, say, Greg and I, but that's 9 times out of 10 what we're setting our customers up for, what we're consulting you through.
Attaches directly
It attaches directly into the hitch. That way you're not using a ball coupler. We're not doing that struggle of trying to make them all match up nicely. Additionally, something to consider, and the reason why I like to sell the 2-inch receiver installed ones, is the fact that when you get to the campsite, trailhead, whatever it might be, typically you pull a pin on that tow bar, and it actually folds up nicely and stows right in the back of your RV or your camper. So now you have a place for it. It's not kicking around your campsite. You're not taking it off and trying to throw it under your bus or in the bed of your pickup truck or whatever. So it's got a nice place where it's kept neat and out of harm's way. And
you can use a pin that locks, so you're not risk of theft and that
correct.
kind of stuff.
You can use a locking pin, and it's not, nobody's going to go over and pop the pin and steal it. There's a lot of good reasons to use that style.
Chuck chimed in with a good question. He wants to know, he said, I've read the tow bar has to be level. How do you accomplish that with a lifted Jeep?
So as far as leveling tow bars, there is so this is a little bit of old school and new school knowledge involved. you always want to, as we talked about in our previous towing conversation, we really want our load to be level in general, right? So that is we start with that as a priority. From there, the new tow bar technologies actually allow for a slightly greater deviation as far as whether it being up or down a little bit from our towing and towed vehicles. As far as leveling it with a lifted vehicle, there are a couple ways to go about this, and it specifically has to do with adjustable hitches or adjustable hitch receivers. Additionally, your leading tow bars actually have greater variation, so that you can actually get a few degrees, up to like 12 to 15 degrees of angle before that tow bar is, kind of has crested over into, kind of an unsafe territory.
Real quick, I'm just going to step off air for a second. I'll be right back.
Sure thing. So as far as, let me move my bullhorns there for you. So as far as, that level nature is concerned, two misnomers that used to happen. One was that you can't back something up when it's hooked into a tow bar or into a trailer assist, so a load leveling assist. So a lot of people talk about that. The issue was what happened in the early years was that it would actually almost lift up the front end of the vehicle, or under braking duress, that the tow bar would get to a cantilever position and the front end of the Jeep would lift up, pivoting at the tow bar itself and kind of doing a wheelie. That inertia of the vehicle moving forward would actually collapse the tow bar. And now that you just have two tires on the ground and it's on the tow bar, that it would basically kind of shoot off in either direction into the back of your vehicle. Equally, the same could be said if it was getting to that cantilever position under the bus or under the towing vehicle. So much like you're trailering and you want your load to be level when you're towing a trailer, the same goes for your tow bar. That, however, is within reason. We can reasonably set most of our lifted vehicles up and keep them in that relative 12 to 15 degree angle without any problem. And if we have to use some type of adjustable hitch mount, we can do that then as well.
Yeah, I'd say for most part, your general lift, as long as you have like an 8 to 10 inch lift or something crazy on your Jeep, relatively we can accommodate it pretty simply. And interestingly enough, most of our RVs that we do have some type of air ride system in the back. And so actually when it airs up and where that hitch sits, you're actually sitting level with your towed. It's an interesting piece. The challenge comes back a case by case basis.
Totally, because the issue is
easy on the chips, man.
Man, Jeff just came back on set, folks, and I want you to fully experience what we did.
Like a bull in a china shop.
Bull in china shop, man. You took your small.
I was channeling the horns.
You took your small frame and you just hammered Grandma's couch. You crushed their good chips. Yeah. You tried knocking the bullhorns off set.
Battering ram.
He
He's trying to show what accidents can happen.
Right.
When towing a tow.
Right, when you're not in control of your load.
Wow.
So what happened, I mean, the problem is, think about this when you talk about a lifted Jeep. If you were to take Scott's Camper Special, which we've talked about, which had a 5,000-pound tow rating, which does not tow nearly as confidence-inspiring as his 2,500 JKU has.
Yep.
That thing is basically sitting just off the rails of the ground, and now you try to tow a lifted vehicle. Yeah, it's not going to work out right.
Yes.
And that way we would use an adjustable, either at the hitch mount itself would be our preferred adjustable location, and God love technology. We're actually in a position where we now have the ability to do that very safely by today's standards.
Well, I would say
kind of cool.
Go out on a limb and say most of the RVs I've seen the hitches are actually pretty high.
Right, that's what I'm saying with the air ride in the back, and
So generally, they're actually more good for a Jeep scenario where it's more directly on than say you had a car that's down low.
yes,
And now they have to come up to the RV.
and you are absolutely correct. Is the fact that the Jeeps are actually ideal for our bigger RV towing, based on both how both of them set.
Now, back to the conversation a little bit about couplers and stuff we were talking about prior to leveling it out. There's another type of coupler I don't think you mentioned, and that was what was on Chuck's trailer that allowed it for the off-road ability as well.
So that pivoting mechanism really is not
Very specific.
It's very specific, and I don't know if it's available on our tow bars or not. That's more of a for an off-road trailer specifically.
Yep.
But that one was kind of
Jeff's dreaming about throwing a Jeep over the Rubicon.
yeah. What are you trying to do, Jeff? You're trying to do make your truck 1 ton, and then you
Yes.
want to just tow the
tow a
family
TJ
Jeep
behind
you or something.
Duh.
So
That's what I hear is he needs a spare.
it's a pivot or a swivel hitch.
Kristen's been dreaming about a Jeep for a long time.
So now he wants the family to ride together in
Yes.
his tow pig Gladiator,
Yes.
Right.
and they'll tow her Jeep out behind it.
Yeah.
I love it. So I mean, as far as that pivot or swivel, we've been trying to play with that technology for decades as a automotive industry. It's a little less refined because the biggest concern or the caveat is longevity and maintenance.
Yep.
And so a number of these actually Chuck's is an Expedition 2.0 trailer, I believe, and some of these other off-road or overlanding rigs have these kind of unique pivot, trailer hitches. The challenge with that and the final, there's pros and cons. How I look at the world, there's pros and cons of everything. If you're truly in an off-road situation, which is not making your Jeep a trailer, this is towing an off-road trailer with your Jeep, you can actually get into an off-camber situation. And if your center of gravity is such that your suspension unloads while you're in an off-camber situation, that pivot will not stop your trailer from taking a nap on the trail.
Yep.
It'll go endo, which was the advantage to a pintle hitch that was released during World War II.
Right.
Is that a pintle hitch could largely go, kind of totally articulated angle to angle from the tow vehicle to the towing. And it would not flip over because of the double ring construction that a pintle hitch is.
Just make god awful lot of noise.
Makes an awful lot of noise. Now, the downside to a pintle hitch is that there's also not a lot that will stop it from sliding towards you
Yes.
as well in the process. There's upsides and downsides to all things.
And that's basic thing is there's just never an exact perfect scenario for all blanket scenarios.
Right, for all
you
people.
have to critique it specifically for that, and that's how you have a good experience.
It's how you're going to use the vehicle. So we talked a lot about tow bar. We talked about a little bit about lights and being able to see that. I will oversimplify towed lights in saying that there's a number of, at this point in time, manufacturer made T harnesses that allow us to use your factory tail lights as
Trailer lights.
Yep. And that actually runs on a 4-wire wiring that goes up to the plug that plugs into the RV or the towing vehicle, the bus, if you will. And so that's a T harness. So that means that when you're using your vehicle normally,
it just functions.
It
as
just
you would
functions. It just, the electrical signal is allowed to pass through. It's reasonably wired in parallel. Yeah, it's reasonably wired in parallel versus series. So the vehicle signal still passes through, but we can offer an additional input when it's wired into the trailer harness or the towing harness from the towing vehicle.
And the nice thing about that is then we can then adapt it to simple 4 flat or 6 round, 7 round, that kind of stuff.
Correct.
And then we're going to properly attach that to the front of your Jeep so you don't rip it off the first time you go up a trail.
And I think you bring up a very good point, is the fact that at minimum, right? If we're talking about at minimum, if you have your Jeep and you have your bus, your towing vehicle, at minimum, it would be of value to have that 4 flat, which gives you brake lights,
turns
turn
and stops,
signals,
and
running lights, right? You get those 4 lights and a quality tow bar and attachment point. That is what I would consider to be the bare minimum that your Jeep needs.
Yep.
So if you go out and you bought yourself a nice 2022 JL, just a little 2-door, let's call it a stripper model, so you don't have power anything, power accessories,
about as light
or
as you can
whatnot.
get.
About as light as you can get, and you're towing it with your 40-foot diesel pusher. You don't need brakes. Like,
No.
you don't. That's just the reality of the situation. You're basically towing a garden trailer at that point by
size comparison.
size comparison to the rig that is pulling it down the
I mean,
road.
basically, in layman's terms, the brakes on the vehicle that's towing it are big enough to withstand it. The mass, the RV is going to outweigh the towed vehicle.
Yep.
So you don't have to worry about it as much. Now, when you do Jeff and you want to tow your 4xe behind your Gladiator, well, now the Gladiator needs some help.
Correct. And so there is a couple different options to ensure that that your brakes are functioning. And it has a lot to do with cost of entering the market and what and how you want to use your vehicle when and how you get to the campsite or the trailhead. So there's a product called the Brake Buddy. It's a very commonly used one. It physically installs in the footwell in front of the driver's seat.
Yep.
And it has a hydraulic arm that goes out and it pushes on the brake pedal.
And usually it's powered by the power point or cigarette lighter in the vehicle it's actuating.
Right. So it's got a 12 volt pulling off the cigarette or the 12 volt outlet. And
which is why we're going to want a 12 volt source from the coach to charge that battery, because now we're using the battery.
Now we're using the battery on the vehicle to supply the Brake Buddy or braking system in general. And what it's going to do is it's going to operate under inertia. So there's basically a mercury switch or an inertia switch. We used to call them mercury switches. It's an inertia switch. And basically think about a bulb in a level that has a little bubble in it. That's an inertia switch basically. And so as the bubble moves forward. in that little bulbous enclosure, it's going to actuate the brakes. And so, so there's this slightly hesitant or delayed experience with the brakes.
Yep.
But the harder you brake, the harder the Brake Buddy or braking system is going to work based on the inertia of the vehicle. It's a pretty regular, common product. The value of it specifically is if you have multiple tows, meaning you have 2 or 3 vehicles that go behind your towing vehicle.
Now you can move it from one to the other.
Now you can move it from one to the other, and that's its biggest sell point.
We do need to. They have a type of breakaway actuator as well that needs to be wired on.
So all of these
the trailer Jeep,
all of these trailer Jeeps should have a breakaway switch wired onto them. But that's
what's
just
a breakaway switch do?
So a breakaway switch in the act of the Jeep coming off of your RV or
Your
Jeff's
bus.
Gladiator.
Yep. I'm going to call Jeff's Gladiator a bus as well.
That's fine.
So.
If that was to come unhooked and worst case scenario,
Decouple.
the Jeep trailer is trying to exit stage left.
You ever think about how just severe that situation is?
This
is
last case.
Your chains have gone.
Your coupler has failed. Your chains have failed.
Yes.
Your wiring harness that's
the
usually
Jeep
pretty
is
robust.
steering off into the
It is headed off the off ramp.
And,
yes.
And I know I've seen it where the trailer goes passing the vehicle, and you're like,
every
that's
good
not good.
cartoon has that.
Every
at least
cartoon
once.
has that, right?
So there is a actuator or electronic device on the front of the Jeep trailer, and it pulls a pin, and that instantly turns on the brakes.
Yes.
And that you don't have steering. That's the only downfall, and it's going to be interesting. But it's going to stop that vehicle in some sort.
Yes. And it's an emergency. It is the last line of defense
Yep.
to ensure that your vehicle does not go careening off into the wild
Oncoming
beyond.
traffic.
Yeah.
So you're not on the number 5 news or
Yes.
something.
Yeah, exactly. So so that's the breakaway switch, which is largely required on a number of trailers. It goes back to Jeffrey's conversation about requirements on trailers. I couldn't tell you factually what size or weight or whatever capacity that breakaways are required, but that is a safety mechanism that is part of these trailer
I
kits.
believe if the trailer has trailer brakes, it's required.
Okay. And that
I believe. I'm not positive.
very well could be. That would make a degree of sense to me, So the challenge with trailer brakes, and then one of the ones I really like we use is the Stay and Play Duo, which is actually has a small pneumatic ram that actually actuates the brake pedal.
It literally attaches to the pedal.
Correct. So it's interesting to note for folks who are listening in, and if you're unfamiliar with this, all braking systems, when creating a Toad, when making your Jeep a Toad, require a physical input of your brake pedal.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think that by today's standards, and when we have electric brakes on our car trailers, our enclosed trailers, or whatever, that actually has a electric brake signal that is typically used or proportioned by a brake controller, what we'll be talking about here shortly. And that brake signal is then kind of its intensity is ramped up or depreciated and applied to electrically activated shoes that create braking pressure. Your towed vehicles don't have that.
Yep.
So all of our towed vehicle braking is reliant on that physical input, the mechanical input that we do as drivers normally. We now have to replicate that mechanically through either physical input of the pedal, a cable pulling on the swing arm of the brake pedal.
And that's something regular trailers used to have what's called a surge brake, where it basically had a master cylinder
Yes.
at the tongue.
It's an inertia brake, yeah.
And as your trailer tried to run you over, it would push on the rod into the master cylinder and make your hydraulic brakes on the trailer work. And if you've ever used a U-Haul car trailer, you still have seen that. They
Yes.
have stuck with that design, where everyone else in the industry has basically changed or standardized on this electronic brake. So when we do a Jeep trailer, we were kind of stepping back into that older technology.
Right. You just got to make it kind of rudimentary because not everybody, well, first of all, we're not going to retrofit electric brakes into a Jeep. And ultimately, your priority should be having fun and being safe on the road and the campsite and the trailhead, and not worrying about your braking system or your towing coupler in the process. So the braking system is very, very important. I'm going to use the Greg's favorite conversation, and he calls it a Ruth Goldberg. It's kind of the concept of when we were that game in the 90s, Mousetrap. The challenge with a number of the braking systems is that they require multiple inputs, and they have pulleys, and they have cables, and they have there's a number of complicated processes that have to happen to ensure that that the vehicle is braking. And if you watch the YouTube video where I was rappelling from the rafters for Chip the other day, I actually briefly touch on the idea that we want to have as few pieces involved in the system as possible.
System as possible,
so that there is less exposure to risk and less failure points. This is just a good rule in life. It's why you said that when there's a vehicle towing and you show up as a first responder, they're kind of guilty until proven innocent, because there's a lot of things going on, and where I'm assuming that somehow one of those many things going on has caused this problem. The braking systems can be similar, and so you want to ensure that we keep it simple, and that it's it's highly functional. And so that's the onboard braking system. Additionally, if it is installed in the Jeep as a permanent installation, some of these other manufacturers, we try to keep those components up and out of the elements so that if you are doing a water crossing or mud bogging or you're just off-roading and you're kind of banging around in a tight technical trail, that none of those brake components are going to be exposed to risk or damage in the process.
Yep. And like always, there's pluses and minuses to each design, and we'll help you with that when you get to that.
Yep.
So besides braking, another issue you may run into setting this up is with the lighting. And specifically, if your trailer is set up on an LED circuit only and you've got halogen lights on your Jeep,
Yes.
there's going to be signal issues.
Yep.
So
and,
that's
and there
something-
is boxes and converters and other things that you can add to that system to rectify those situations. But again, that's a case-by-case basis and almost manufacturer by manufacturer. It doesn't.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I think we're learning in this industry that we are exposed to right now, as certainly as the towing vehicles, the buses get more technical and change. There's CAN bus, which is not to be confused with the fact that I'm talking about RV and towing, but that type of signal,
Electronic
communication is not what it was even just 15, 20 years ago. So we're encountering a lot of challenges with the interfacing the towed and the towing vehicles. As far as sometimes the RV doesn't even know the vehicle's back there because of electrical signal that it's looking to see and not seeing. Additionally, most vehicles are exiting on a 7-pin RV plug, which has become standardized in the last 10 years. But that's not how it used to be. So if you're towing with an older RV or truck, your 7-pin that wires out that then may need to be converted to a 6-pin or into that 4-flat might be different than what we have been using standardized for the last few years. So you're going to want to be very careful about knowing what your electrical interface is before you're like, hey, I'm ready to leave at 9 a.m. and then you have electrical problems.
Yep.
The piece that Scott had talked about was that 12-volt draw while towing. The Jeeps will, one of the things new with the Jeeps is that they are awake until they go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the challenges that with our newer Jeeps is that they actually go to sleep. And
then things do not work.
So the brake lights actually do not activate. Excuse me, because
The Jeep's asleep.
Because the Jeep is asleep.
Yeah.
So despite the fact that the key can actually be in the on position,
it can time
in the
out.
run position, it will actually time out. It's not like our old school ignition systems. It'll actually go, hey, I know that you had me in the run position for the first 15 minutes or 30 minutes or 2 hours.
Yeah.
But I want to protect your battery. And
But I want to
shut
protect your battery, and I'm going to shut off. And so that is another big thing that we're encountering in the industry.
And quick clarifier, we're actually talking second generation JKs and newer.
Yes.
Even though you have a key and you do not have a push button start, it still goes to sleep and still wakes up. Is something that as a Jeep owner you may not realize or comprehend.
Right.
And how I always show this to people is our older TJs and that kind of stuff. When we switch a switch, we turn on something, you're physically making that connection. That is a command. On our JKs and newer, it is a request. The computer is seeing your input and then deciding to make that
to oblige
to
or
oblige.
not.
Yes.
Yes.
And sometimes the computer can tell you where to go and how to get there.
Yep.
Or for how long.
Yes. Yeah. We'll go, we'll be friends for a few minutes,
Yes.
and then I'm going to time out, or
And I'm going to go to sleep, and then your brake lights are going to work anymore.
and your brake lights won't work anymore, and you're
Yes.
driving through Chicago, and you don't have any brakes.
Sometimes the computer just goes into a full comatose and
Yeah,
needs
that
that
happens too.
additional
Sometimes
rehab.
you have to unplug it, plug it back in, and then everything's good again.
There's our IT department.
Yes.
Yep.
So the last couple little just funsy pieces, and I don't think we have to spend tons of time on it, but additional accessory lighting. So if you have any concern about visibility of your vehicle while it is back there, there is opportunity to wire in additional marker lights or into that circuit. We've done a couple Jeeps where we add some pretty cool lights to make it illuminate nicely.
In case you want to flex on that Peterbilt you're passing or something.
That's right. That's right.
Just remember that there is color ordinances on those lights.
Yep.
Yeah, so if your halos are a fun, funky color, if your blue is your accent color, and you're good to turn those on with your marker lights at the local Jeep night, you cannot run down the highway with those because there are certain colors that are reserved for our first responders.
Typically, you can pretty much plan for throughout the whole U.S. Red or blue is a no-go.
Yep, amber is the
Forward-facing.
only one. Amber is the only one that is permissible reasonably 50 states. The last piece that I'll share with you that I think is actually, or I guess maybe two little things that I think are pretty cool options that you might want to consider when making your Jeep a trailer is there are onboard air stem caps that you thread right in place of your valve stem cap. And that would allow you to monitor the air pressure in your Jeep tires. So your Jeep a trailer tires, you can do
You
that.
also use that on your car trailer or your camper or anything that has tires with valve stems.
Correct. So it is TPMS, tire pressure monitoring system, and you cannot tie into the TPMS of your Jeep itself, but this accessory cap would be able to be, you'd be able to monitor it via an app on your phone or an accessory tablet in your towing vehicle, and it would let you know what the tire pressure of your Jeep tires are, just in case you forgot to air up when you left the trailhead,
Or you get a nail and suddenly the passenger side back tire on the Jeep trailer is going flat.
Yes.
And you have no idea because you can't see it.
correct, and
Because you got big hips and you're towing it with the Ram.
there you go. That's right. So, wow, I feel like we've done this before.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway.
or if the tire blows up on the state highway patrol
Yeah, it's
officer's vehicle and you can't see it.
Well, he'll let
know?
you know, though.
Oh, he did let me know. so,
For that story, go back a couple episodes.
Yeah.
You'll hear that.
So I like that for this because I see practical application if you are wheeling your vehicle and let's say you let some air out via valve core tool and it didn't get put back as
Yeah. And
well
now we're
as
going to go out
possible.
and do 90 miles an hour on the freeway.
and it's losing air quickly, and as it warms up, air thins out and it pushes out faster. Or maybe you got a little bit of debris in the
bris.
bead, debris in the bead of the seat of the tire and wheel, and now you're losing air. Those things are going to let you be able to catch a problem before it becomes more severe for that highway experience. And the other piece is what we've done recently with a customer, but a couple folks, is we utilize an app-based system called the Trigger. So the Trigger 4 or the Trigger 6 is app and an RF signal switches. So in theory, we could, or you as the driver, could actually turn on and off some things from your towing vehicle in your Jeep.
Remotely.
So, remotely. So if for our one specific customer's concerns, he finds himself in some backcountry experiences where it's limited visibility or foggy at night, he can actually turn on some accessory lights to illuminate his Jeep more, or he's very interested in like a warning light to let people know that he's that the highway is coming to a stop. It's becoming a parking lot. Or additionally, one of the things that we've set up is that his forward-facing lights are some of his other spotlights and floodlights, so that if he's in his RV and there is some commotion at his campsite or a concern in the backwoods, he can actually, from the comfort of his RV, turn on and illuminate and light up his camp space.
He can turn his Jeep into a UFO.
He can turn his Jeep into a security system UFO, lighting up the camp space to see whether it's just a little woodland creature or a ne'er-do-well rummaging through
Bigfoot.
his space. Yes. So there's
He
just
can actually catch Bigfoot on camera with good lighting.
he probably could at this point. So those are a couple little accessories. I think we took you from a wild ride of what Grandpa towed with, 60 years ago to our most technologically advanced.
I was going to say, I got to apologize to listeners at this point because we've already gone into almost the longest episode, I think,
Yes.
ever.
That's
All
just
right.
because
And
he
we haven't
doesn't
even
want to
got-
do a second one.
And we haven't even got into.
I'm not doing
Our
product
product
spotlight.
spotlight.
We're not doing it, folks. We're not even doing it tonight. We'll make it for next week. You're going to look forward to it. It is towing inspired, and I promise you we're not going to make it 20 minutes long. Do you have anything for the good of the
Don't
order?
make promises you can't keep.
We're doing it. We're doing it. Anything else for the good of the order?
I think we're
I
good.
hope you're still asleep. I am apologizing
That
now.
meeting has run long.
If the meeting has run long, and for the sake of formality or understanding, No Rules 2023, we're cutting it off here.
Do I have a
folks.
motion to adjourn this meeting?
I second it. It's been a blast. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have an epic adventure out there towing or being towed or getting towed out or towing whatever. I hope you found something beneficial in the last 4 episodes. We're putting it to bed, folks. We're done with it. Well, maybe next week
Lies.
for Product Spotlight. Until then, Jeep on.
Toe on.
Jeep on.